So I don't know if I could do the usual nightly video tonight as I took to the Senate floor to help Cory Booker, who has been phenomenal, holding that floor and making the case to the American people. So I want to share that with you instead. Will the gentleman yield for a question?
From you, my friend, who doubled the number of vegans in the Senate. I yield for a question while retaining the floor, and I thank you for being here.
I thank you for being here. Senator Booker, I always knew you were a towering intellect and a phenomenal and passionate speaker and advocate, but I did not know your stamina until today. And I am delighted to join you on the floor. Let me ask the question this way. I was in the airport yesterday when someone handed me a note that said, "Please save our country. Please save our country." And I think the genesis of the note was her profound concern over the direction of this country, over the increasingly authoritarian direction of this country and what is happening to the rule of law in America. We look at institution after institution, and we see the guardrails of our democracy coming down. We see an assault on the rule of law unlike anything we have seen in modern history, maybe in the entire history of the United States of America. Each and every institution. And why? Because they can. Because they feel they can. So they're going after the colleges and universities.
Right.
They're going after the institutions of higher learning. This was an attack that was presaged by J.D. Vance years ago in a speech where he talked about the professors are the enemy. They have to go after the seat of learning. So they're going after the universities, and they're using an enormous cudgel. We'll cut off your funds. We'll cut off hundreds of millions in your funds if you do things, if you say things that we in the administration don't like. If you irritate the personal predilection of the president, you will have your funding cut. It is unlawful, it is illegal, and yet they're doing it because they can. They're going after major American law firms because these law firms had the audacity, the unmitigated temerity to hire lawyers or have lawyers who would take on causes inimical to the president's personal interests. So they're going after these firms and they're threatening the livelihood of these firms. We'll close the courthouse doors. We'll cut your clients off from contracts unless you kiss the ring. And of course, it's not just the firms or what they represent. It's everyone who is in need of a lawyer, who now needs to know that if they run afoul of the policy preferences of the administration, they may never get a lawyer. And why are they doing this to law firms? Because they can. And they're going after judges. They're calling for the impeachment of judges. The latest is Judge Boasberg in a case involving the administration grabbing a bunch of people, designating them as part of a Venezuelan gang, and without any due process, without any process at all, taking them to some maximum security prison in El Salvador. And in fact, it would appear doing so even against the court order when the judge said, turn those places around. Now, why are they encouraging the impeachment of a judge? Well, I impeached a judge here. I was a lead manager before there was an impeachment of Donald Trump, or two of them. I led an impeachment of a corrupt judge. It's the same standard of high crimes and misdemeanors. It is not a high crime or a misdemeanor to disagree in a case brought before a federal district court, to disagree with the flawed reasoning of the government. Why are they doing this to judges? Because they can. Because they can. They're going after the press. They're going after the press and saying, if you don't call the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America, we're going to prevent you from attending press events at the White House or on Air Force One. And why are they doing this to press? This party that claims to be against censorship, why are they doing this to the press? Because they can, and they will continue to do so as long as they believe that they can, until we, and not just we in this body, But we in this country stand up to them and tell them, no, you can't. No, you can't. If the slogan years ago was, yes, we can, today it has to be, no, you can't. No, you can't. No, you can't trample the rights of the American people. No, you can't censor our speech. No, you can't bring the weight of the Justice Department down on the American people. No, you can't. Because we're going to stand together. We universities are not going to let you pick one of us off. We're going to band together. No, we're not going to let you go after the law firms. We're going to band together. No, we're not going to let you go after the press organizations. We're going to demand free speech. Until we come together, until we mobilize in a massive way together to say, no, you can't, no, you can't, they will continue to believe that, yes, they can violate the law with impunity. So my question, Senator Booker, is how do we tell them, no, you can't, not with our country, no, you can't violate the law, violate our values, violate our interests? No, you can't. How do we tell the administration no?
My friend and colleague, I'm hoping that we could figure out thousands of ignition points where Americans can stand up and do that, call to their fellow Americans to do more. I'm not upset at the folks that have been saying to Democratic senators and House members and me and challenging me. I've talked to so many of my constituents who've said, you've got to do more, and all of us have to interrogate ourselves. Because like I said at the very beginning of this, at 7 p.m. on Monday night, I said, we have to say to history where we stood when they were coming after our constitutional principles, where we stood when they were threatening judges to impeach them for making just decisions, where we stood when they were taking law firms and threatening their business unless they came and kowtowed to the big leader, where we stood when they were disappearing people from America with the due process that even Anton Scalia said they should have. Where were you when they came after the health care of the disabled, the health care of the children, the health care of the expectant mothers, the health care of seniors? Where were you when they attacked veterans, laying them off for no justifiable reason and attacking the VA services that they rely on? Where were you when we turned our back on Ukraine? Where were you when we turned our back on our alliances? Where were you when they took the economy down with tariffs? When they took the economy down by threatening it so consumer confidence drops? Where were you? How many things are going on before we answer the question, as it says in Hebrew, he ne ni. He ne ni. Behold, Lord, here I am. And so I confess that I have been imperfect. I confess that I've been inadequate to the moment. I confess that the Democratic Party has made terrible mistakes, that have given lane to this demagogue. I confess we all must look in the mirror and say, we will do better. And it's not just defining ourselves what we're against. We, the next generation, as the baby boomers are leaving the stage, the last baby boomer president, we have to say that we're going to redeem the dream. We're going to dream America anew. We're going to start talking about bold things that don't divide people, that unite people. Bold things that excite the moral imagination of a country to do better, to go higher, that call us together. This is the time where new leaders in our country must emerge. I'm not talking about senators. I'm talking about citizens. This time of despair and darkness doesn't demand more darkness. We don't need to demean and degrade people who disagree with us. This is a time for us to do something bigger than that. Do you think Martin Luther King in Birmingham hated Bull Connor or said, I'm going to defeat this guy by bringing bigger dogs and bigger fire hoses? No. But he did say, we're going to be so creative, we're going to inspire the moral imagination of the nation, we're going to call to the conscience of the country, we're going to excite them about who we could be When he went to the March on Washington, he didn't stand there and complain about the demagogues. Listen to his speech. He didn't stand there and demean and degrade the governor of Alabama. He didn't stand there and talk down to Bull Connor. No, he stood before the American people and said, it's not what you're against, it's what you're for. I have a dream. And now it's our generation. We have to redeem the dream. We have to excite people again. He, in the highest office of our land, wants to divide us against ourselves, wants to make us afraid, wants to make us fear so much that we're willing to violate people's fundamental rights. We're willing to go after the speech on college campuses. We're willing to go after law firms, go after the freedom of the press. Don't let him do that. Don't become like him. Be an American that says, I look to the future and I'm excited. Yes, things are tough right now. They're hard, they're scary, they're hurting, but we can overcome this. Our American history, if it's nothing else, American history, if it's nothing else, it is a perpetual testimony to the achievement of impossible things against impossible odds. We are a nation that is great not because of the people that are trying to whitewash our history, to remove great people, Native Americans, black people, and women from our military websites. I don't want a Disneyfication of our history. I don't want to whitewash history. I don't want to homogenize history. Tell me the wretched truth about America, because that speaks to our greatness. And so what do I want people to do? It starts with us, man, and you're doing it. I've seen courage of my colleagues. We're doing it, but we have to do more, and I'm sorry. I'm not going to be a politician that's going to say, we are going to do more for you. I'm going to be a politician. I'm going to be a leader that demands more from America.
Will the senator yield for one last question?
I yield for a question while retaining the floor.
Well, this gets to exactly, Senator Booker, your point. I'm optimistic about this country. Notwithstanding this deep, difficult, dark period we are in, I'm optimistic about this country, and I'm optimistic because of something that Alexis de Tocqueville might have said. There is some dispute about whether he actually said this.
The mere fact that you can quote Alexis de Tocqueville, you got me, you have me.
I would like to believe he said this. America is a great country because America is a good country.
Yes,
if he didn't say it, he should have said it, because it is true of this country. It is what makes me an optimist. There are wonderful, beautiful, patriotic people in every state of the union, and they will see us through this, but it does, I think, require all of us to be reminded every now and then of the better angels of our nature. Now, I remember standing in that well during the first impeachment of Donald Trump.
I remember sitting right here in this seat watching you.
And I'll tell you, I had approached that case as a prosecutor would approach a case that I just needed to prove the president guilty of what he was charged with. But it became apparent very quickly that that was not enough. That notwithstanding the abundant evidence of his guilt, I needed to show something more. I needed to show that it was dangerous to keep him in office. Well, tragically, events since have proven my point, but I made a different argument at that point of the trial, which I think gets us to the present moment, which is that truth should matter to us. What's right should matter to us. And even if it doesn't matter to the president, it should matter to us. That we are decent.
Yes.
As Americans, we are decent. We are good and decent people. As Americans, that's who we are. We don't believe that when someone is needing medical help that they should be turned away. We don't believe that we should turn our back on our neighbor. We believe in extending our hand. We believe we should be able to disagree with each other without it becoming a personal hatred or antagonism. We're Americans. This is who we are. I do think sometimes we forget. And we have to remind ourselves that, as Elijah Cummings used to say, we're better than this.
Yes.
We are better than this.
Yes, I miss Elijah.
And you remind us of this all the time, Senator Booker. You really do. You also remind us that we're not defined by what we're against. We're defined by what we're for. And I'm fully on the same page with you that we haven't lived up to our responsibility as a party and what we're for. I think our democracy is in trouble because our economy has been in trouble. And I think our economy has been in trouble because it's not like after the Depression or during the Depression or the Great Recession when people are out of work. The problem today is not that people are out of work. The problem today is that people are working. They are working. And they still can't get by. And you have too many millions of Americans who see their quality of life and they look at what their parents had and see it as better, and they look at the future for their kids and see it as worse. And amidst that economic difficulty, they're ready to embrace anyone who offers something different. Any demagogue who comes along and promises they alone can fix it. And while this demagogue is not going to fix it, and indeed he's made their lot much worse, it is not going to fix itself. It falls on us to come up with those big ideas. Now, some of those big ideas are not new. Medicare for all, which I support, is a big idea that would expand healthcare access for millions of people and make sure parents can go to work and understand that if they get sick or their kid gets sick, that they will have access to health care. We haven't kept pace with changes in the nature of work, changes that are going to accelerate with artificial intelligence, changes which have meant that over the last several decades, as the country's become more productive, that productivity and prosperity has simply not been shared with the people who made it possible. And I think this economic anxiety, which is felt all over the world with these global changes in the marketplace, have put great stress on the whole democratic experiment. If democracy is not working for people, they will flirt with other models like authoritarianism, but we are here to tell folks that is not the direction we want to go in. But it's still incumbent on us to offer bold ideas for how we can make the economy work for people again. But I do think that what has led people into such bitter antagonisms with each other has been a lot of this uncertainty, the feeling that they're only a car payment or a health problem away from failure. And it's up to us to address that. And so I join you, Senator Booker, in your optimism about the American people. I join you in the call on all of us, really in both parties, but if they're not going to do it, it falls on us to put forward the big, bold economic plans that will ensure that we can answer the central question of our time, which is if you're working hard in America, can you still earn a good living?
Yes.
We need to be able to answer that question. Yes, you can. And right now, what we are seeing with this tax cut for billionaires and large corporations is just going to make the problem so much worse. But I want to thank you, Senator Booker, for your irrepressible optimism about the country which I share. I want to thank you for seizing the helm today and every day to put forward that positive vision for our country. And my question is, where do you find the energy, my friend?
I don't know. I'm finding it from my colleagues right now. I'm finding it from my friends. I'm finding it from their heart and their commitment. And I'm finding it from the people whose names and stories we're reading.
Hey everybody, so I started to make these nightly videos because I kept hearing from people with everything going on. It'd be nice to have some explanation at the end of the day that helps make sense of it all. So that's what I've tried to do, but I would love your feedback, and if you'd like to continue the conversation, please join along. But let me know, are there subjects you want me to cover? Are there movie clips you want me to include? As you can tell, I'm a movie fan. But I hope we'll get to continue the conversation and welcome your feedback.